Mm, mm. Wow, it's Monday already. Recorded June 9, 2025. Welcome to the Security Insights Podcast, aka the Island of Misfit podcast host. I'm your host, Mr. Roy. Today, you can tell someone takes nothing seriously on Mondays, especially me, right? So, hey, we're the Microsoft correction. We are the Security Insights Podcast. For those who haven't caught on yet, we'll tell you why if you haven't been part of the whole thing. But it's Edward, and I'm here. And a lot of my hosts are either traveling, sick, or incarcerated. Oh, hold on. Ray's gotten out. There she is.
Gosh, sick or incarcerated. Yeah, okay. I'm on early parole. Is that what it is? Oh, good.
Yeah, for good behavior.
Well, that's nothing I'm known for. But yeah, you can teach an old dog new tricks, I guess. You know, wolf. Here we are. How's it going?
It goes away. That it is. So a little bit of a shake up to our audience that are watching live. Rod's in Europe doing what Rod does. He's traveling, speaking, working, whatever else. Brody caught the worms, so he's sick. That's why I don't be around family. They just bring worms. Ray is a trooper. She's not home. She's below the weather also. But hey, we got our former guest and outstanding co-host and friends of the show and all this other stuff. We got Nathan and Rick. Nathan and Rick, what's up?
Hey, what's up, Ed? How you doing today?
Man, you know, life's a box of chocolates. There you go.
There you go. You guys get anything crazy this weekend? Or see anything crazy in the news this weekend?
You know what? Crazy being relative. I try to detox over the weekend, which is sort of hard since we changed the format of the show, to be on Mondays. So we're really not giving any updates unless we're talking about what we did on Friday or if we did anything cool. A little bit of a heads up. We are going to shift the show back eventually to Wednesday and get out of Monday. So we at least have 2 work days of content to be able to do. And then you have 2 days of work to then have something to talk about Wednesday when you come back. There were some people who pinged me a couple of times to say, hey, man, you guys should have 2 shows a week. I'm like, that's ambitious.
That's aggressive.
Like, no, don't do that. I think
you have to have a spin-off. You have to
and that's what I said. That's like, we do that of a sort, right? Because we all have our individual media personas, and Ray does her thing. I do my thing. Obviously, Rod does her.
I've gotten radio silent. Rod is everywhere at all times. Whatever Rod is on, I want to be on.
I don't know. I'm going to ask him that. But, Rod has Rod's things. I have Ed's edibles. We have Ray's rants. And then we have Brody. What did I come up with the beat? Brody's whatever the adjective is to talk about you think deeply, but we'll figure it out.
He's got to recover from those brain worms before he gets a moniker.
Yeah, he got the worms.
It's the philosophy of Brody. I think that's
philosophy of Brody, right?
Yeah.
Brody, I hope you feel better, man. You really have to be sick for you not to make it, and you sound like you're doing bad. That's what happened to little kids and going around little kids to do.
Yes, we want to issue a public service announcement. Beware of all the little children. They are the most prolific germ carriers. My baby had to come home last week because poor thing, she vomited multiple times. And then when she vomited in her classroom, it prompted all of her classmates to follow suit. They were inspired. And I got a stern talking to by the school nurse when I picked her up. And then when she threw up, all the other the kiddos threw up. I was like, I can't. I'm so sorry.
I mean, she's an influencer.
I love it.
There you go. That's what we do it. But hey, let's get started. We have our guests in the green room, probably just pilfering everything that we have in their value. So we got to get them out of here. But we'll start with you, Nathan. Thanks for coming on the show, man, and co-hosting. You've been on a few times. I was actually going through your last episode, revisiting the whole containers Kubernetes thing that we were talking about. I go back and watch our shows about 5 shows back. So I'm watching 5 shows back, and then I'll catch up or I'll listen. So what's going on, Nate? What are you up to? What are you breaking?
Oh, for me, I've been over the weekend. We have this Xbox Game Pass right at Microsoft that you can get, and I found a lovely little title called Blueprints. It's a really amazing game that combines the aspects of like mystery, like think Myst from like the 2000s or 90s, with strategy. You have like a 5 by 10 grid, and as you go through the rooms of a house, you get almost like pick 3 cards and draft a room, and each room has like puzzles or coins or keys that let you continue trying to move through the house to unlock a really wonderful mystery. And me and the family started playing it. We must have put 12 hours in over this weekend. It was that engaging of a game. It's called Blueprints. I was just completely floored by it. But I've just been, since we've chatted, reading more about what makes a good game, and I was just completely floored by the presentation and the game elements itself. And so, reason why that's important for me at least is because on our previous call we talked about vibe coding and some projects, and I have something in the works trying to gamify some elements of cybersecurity eventually.
Awesome. I thought it was the blueprint, but it's blueprints, as in royalty, like aristocracy.
Oh, well,
right? Yeah.
I will take a look at it. Little known fact that whenever there used to be major conferences, Microsoft always won an Xbox. I really had them piled up downstairs. Everyone always won an Xbox.
You're not expensed to attend conferences anymore, Edward. You somehow, anytime you win, you're like, that's my Xbox. That's my other Xbox.
I got a room full of swag in there. That I win stuff, it sits in there, I re-gift it.
I'll take it. That's amazing. Yep. That good fortune follows you.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's easy to win these raffles, right? They say, well, put your card in the bowl. They're like, oh, okay. So take everybody else's cards out, throw them in the trash. Hey, if you ain't cheating, you're fine. Oh, yeah. Whoop Wall Street here, babe. All right, mate. Well, that's the personal aspect. What did I do? I did do some rewiring of my house. I did one little survey with Sonos, and not sponsored by the show. Big shout out to Sonos. They keep sending me free stuff. I got another beam in the house that came down. My wife's like, what did you order? I was like, I didn't order anything. I knew I have access to the credit card statement. I was like, you can go look. I did. For me stuff. So I change out and give the other stuff away. Like, here, I find somebody. You want a Sonos wireless thing? Just give it out. So that's pretty good. Rick, what about yourself, man? What did you do today to change the world?
I didn't do anything that technical. I bought a pickup truck last week, so I spent some time going through all the bells and whistles of that. The new vehicle, new features, all connected. They're monitoring everything I do in Drive and whatnot. So.
We talked about that in Charlotte, that you were for a vehicle and you were sort of deciding. Yep. So you decided to go ahead and get the Lamborghini. Yes.
Well, Lamborghini can't tow a boat, and that's the end state. So
lake life? Is this the thing?
So I live near the coast, so I'm in Charleston, South Carolina. So the goal is to stop mooching off all my friends with their boats and have my own.
Very cool.
The only thing better than having a friend with a boat is having a friend that owns a lake.
I left that. I divorced my access to lake life. I was like, I can't handle it. It's not for me. I couldn't do it. No thanks. I don't know. I'm just a Puerto Rican kid from the Bronx. It was never it was too placid for me. I like a little hustle bustle. So it's great for other people.
All my neighbors have boats. Not all of them, but enough of them. And these are boats. Like boats. Like how much you don't want to get in people's business, dude.
They're expensive.
You had to tell me how much your boat costs. And they like, not that much. I paid $700,000 for it. What?
Yeah, we'll see. A lot of people don't realize it. Boats are kind of like RVs in the sense that if it has a bathroom on it, basically, and a sleeping quarters, you can mortgage it. You can get like a 30-year loan on a boat. Now, should you do that? Probably not, but you could.
But he said the market to turn a boat over is easy. When you want to sell it, when he sold it, it's sold in a week. And he said the boat cost is nothing. It's paying for the skiff, fuel, maintenance, to have it when we would drive up someone to bring the boat out and have it ready for you to get out. That must be good living.
Yeah.
Not for me. So, but hey, I'm glad you got what you get, you a big old Dodge.
No, I got a Ford F-150, so I'm part of the Ford gang again. I used to have one years and years ago. But the interesting part is, my last vehicle didn't have, I mean, it had Apple CarPlay, but it wasn't like as connected as this truck is. And so you're going through like the sign up and, being security minded, I'm reading through the waiver and I'm like, wait, they want to know my location all the time. Why? And then I say no. And then like half the features go away. I'm like, oh my God. So a little bit of a struggle there.
A good hack would be to someone that could figure out how to put a VPN on the built-in intelligence of it. Because my Lexus knows everything about me.
Yeah, do some kind of split tunneling on your phone because I think it tethers through your phone and then it's phoning home at that point. So you probably do some split tunneling. I don't think iOS. Well, maybe if you put some time MDE on it or something like that. But
you can do it. It's there because one of my cars is a hotspot subscription and everything. I did not know. So it said, "Would you like to join this access point?" I'm thinking it's my car. It has to. I was like, "Oh no." No, turn that off. I didn't break anything. Bad storms in Atlanta. All my service turned off. Went down there, realized the UPS has been dead for months.
Oh,
that's what that beeping is. So I went down there and turned everything back on, and one of my domain controls looks like it bit the dust. When you can hear your hard drive go, tick, tick, tick.
Yep.
Like,
look at death.
First of all, do solid states do that? I know if you're old enough, not you, Ray, you're not old enough. IDE drives, we're notorious for it.
A little head bouncing around.
Yeah, just spindle press. I don't know. I did that. I took some advice from someone who gave me some very good financial and investing stuff and spent hours this weekend reading and going through. I won't mention who that person is, but I owe that person money or something else, and I really appreciate it. And that was a good thing. I'm doing some reading. I was telling somebody, big shout out to Samantha Gardner for helping me out today. And with that, I'd like to promote one of the Defender experts.
Are you for real right now, Edward? Like, you didn't even ask me we are not playing. You don't think I'll keep quiet, man, sir?
I was just messing with you.
He really did. He was like, I'm gonna take the tempo.
I had you wrote down, do that to Ray and see what happens.
I'll get real healthy real quick. Now I stress myself.
Now I got your energy up. Ray, what did you do? You know I was going to steal your thunder because I had it.
Mercy. That's how people know that, like, I'm legit across the board. The second I'm like, you'll see the real me come through. Yes, I am very excited to be partnering with Sam and her team. And it's actually Defender Experts and Friends. So this episode is going to be closing out our first trilogy. Very, very cool. Yes. So we'll have folks who are actually from the MDE engineering side, the folks that are writing the detections and researchers from that org joining us as well. And we'll be doing a deep dive on ClickFix. So very cool stuff. Doing the Lord's work, socializing with the folks who have built customer relationships, getting the word out. So super stoked about it. And thank you, Edward, because the fireside chats for Defender Experts was absolutely the inception for our public facing series. So want to shout you out as well.
For our live viewers, it is the Microsoft Defender Experts S.T.A.R Forum, Strategies for Threat Awareness. As Ray said, this is episode 3, which completes the first of many trilogy. And so I wanted to put it here. I was asked, and I was like, oh no, Ray's already talked about it. She's amplified it. I've shared it, but I was just going to yank the chain by sharing this and everything.
So, I got it. But we're so dramatic. Yes, it's a trilogy. We're only going to issue our episodes in trilogy format.
Yeah. You have to wait. We don't allow you to just stream all of it like Game of Wrongs, because I tried to watch that and like, this is wrong. They should have stopped at that. That's not good. Yeah, the Game of Wrongs. With that being said, I put the link in the chat. It will definitely be in the show notes. We highly recommend that after you register, if you haven't participated in episode 1 or 2, you should, and then register for 3. We're going to talk about it up until such time that webinar, that presentation is June 26th at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You need to join it. I got to work with Ray last year on the deck side. I really learned a lot. Big shout out to Samantha again. Thanks for the conversation today. Very informative 1-hour conversation with you. And I also want to give a shout out to Ray. Ray gave me some great career advice today. We had a good talk. She called me back. She didn't big time me. And thanks for that advice, Ray. I actually acted on it a little bit.
You are very special, because for somebody in Sam's position to take an hour of time to connect with you, you've added like 5 hours to her day. Poor thing. She's big deal within the Defender Experts operations and obviously within cyber in general. So you're very special.
I am a person that believes in give. If you give me your time, that indentures me that if you need me, I'll come back. That's it. That's how I do, right? I'm a favor driven. I'm favor operator.
Favor driven. That's my new line in my bio. Yes.
Yeah. So we have a guest that we want to bring on, and our show has things around partners, women in cyber. Ray and I are going to host certification stories.
Show us your certs. Yeah, I need to get cracking on it.
Yeah, well, we got time. It's not until October. So
no, it's just around the corner. Everything just comes at you fast. It's like end of fiscal year, but then the start of it, it's a rat race.
It is a rat race, and the rats don't even want to race anymore. They're just like, I'm done racing, right? And so let's get our guest on. And so what we want to talk about is individuals who are in the cybersecurity arena of a sort or not. I mean, it's just career path changes. Like, you do things for a certain amount of time. You want to do something else, you want to do something else. And to me, that seems to be a great source of mentorship, learning. And I think we don't spend enough time thinking about our careers, how we go about these things and navigating. If you leave it a chance, you leave it a chance, right? I'm that person that my luck is when I flip a coin, it lands on the edge and stays there. How that's possible, I do not know, right? So I'm the living representation of Schrodinger's cat all the time.
Schrodinger's cat?
Yeah, that cat.
Okay, Schrodinger's cat.
Yeah.
A lesser known cat.
Okay, right? Trevor said, man, I did 8 renewals. Trevor's back. Man, Trevor got paroled too. I haven't seen him in a while. Welcome back, Trev. What's up, man? We do that. So, hey, let's get our guest on. Hey, sir.
Hey, how we doing?
I'm all right, Mr. Brewer. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Ray, good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Good to see you again, too. Sorry for the long intro. We're just trying to play catch up. Over the weekend, we tend to have these long band tours. We got to get back to Wednesday, where everybody's worn out from their day jobs. Nobody wants to talk. Like, I hate IT. So, Mr. Brewer, welcome to the Security Insight Show. Would you like to do an intro to our listeners and our viewers?
Sure. First, thanks for having me on, and really love the show and appreciate the opportunity to be part of it. So, my name's Adam Brewer. I'm coming to you from the greater Des Moines, Iowa metro. Been at Microsoft now for 8 years, and prior to that, various roles in enterprise IT, going all the way back to my getting out of college 15 years ago now, which is crazy to think about. Born and raised Iowan, always have lived here in various parts of the state. Very proud Iowan. So I'm from flyover country. If you ever fly over, give me a wave. We'll wave back because we're nice like that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, really excited to come on the show and kind of talk about, you mentioned career progression. I definitely have some stories to tell.
Yeah, I definitely want to hear about it. We want to hear about what you're doing, what you did do. So first of all, Des Moines, been there, some of the best running you can do. I was there, got there a day early. I used to be a big runner, marathoner, went out for a run. Lots of runners there, right? And then it's not as remote as you think. The downtown area is live. I had a good time. Brewery.
Yeah, it's about a metro of 700,000 people today. The Drake Relays is one of the largest track and field events in the United States, collegiate and high school. And so that's pretty well known, especially in the upper Midwest. And we do have an extensive trail system. I'm a runner too, done many half marathons, one full marathon. I learned my lesson from that, but certainly appreciate getting out when the weather's nice, which it isn't always, but there's certainly ample opportunity for that. But, we have an interesting story to tell above and beyond just agriculture in this state. We actually have some contributions to technology. And two, I'll just share fun facts with you. Number one, the digital computer itself, the birthplace of basically all the industry that we all work in today. The first digital computer was created at Iowa State University in Ames, Iowa, so the central part of the state. They didn't really follow through in the whole like patenting it thing and following up on it thing, but the first digital computer from Iowa. Also, more recently, ChatGPT, of course, we're all familiar with that. The initial training for the GPT models happened in Microsoft's West Des Moines data centers. So right here, where I'm coming at you from, Microsoft is building its 7th data center campus here. And a lot of that initial AI training all happened right here locally. So I like to tell people where ChatGPT was physically born was right here in West Des Moines, Iowa. So pretty cool. 2 little facts for you as you fly over next time.
Because the Des Moines office was nice. I don't know if it's still open or not, but it's nice. And the data center proliferation is amazing. I was talking about it. They're building 4 data centers here in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
And there's got to be like 13 of them in Virginia already.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, when you think about it, we think about data centers as a single entity, but when you look at the way they're set out, it's regions. You can have multiple data centers in a region. And so I'm going through like, wait a minute, how they're building 4? Google has a bunch down here. Apple has a data center. Who knew? So Apple, right? Why do you have a data center? They actually have a data center running Apple servers. I don't know if they still make the servers for commercial consumption, but Apple used to have a server. So I guess it was for graphic manipulations or whatever Apple does. I don't know what Apple does other than makes phones these days.
iCloud. They're trying to get into AI too. I mean, they pushed off until I think 2026, but they're trying. I will say I like having products that just work together. So all my Apple products work without me having to download other software and configure it. And that's primarily why I'm an Apple user. But it's nice when things work harmoniously.
Yeah, I mean, you got a point, because when one thing rings is Apple, like the phone rings, the watch rings, the computer rings, my washcloth on my face rings. So it's Apple integrated. Who knows? I'm like, hey man, my face is ringing, right? So you never know what. Be careful what you integrate, right? So Adam, give us a little bit about, we love the history. I ran at Drake Relays when I used to be really good in high school and everything. Really good event, right? All day though. All day. 6 in the morning, 12 at night. Lights come on, you keep running, right? But tell me a little bit about who you are, what you do, and everything. And I'm sure some of my co-hosts have some questions for you, but I want to actually hear that this prestigious career path that you've had at Microsoft. You said you had some stories. I like stories.
Yeah, let's talk about it. So I feel like my story is punctuated by raising my hand at those inflection points. When someone says, do you want to learn something new? Do you want to try something different? I always said, yes, let's do that. And so I graduated from college with a degree in management information systems, and the Des Moines Metro actually is really well known for having a lot of financial services companies. So a lot of insurance, a lot of capital markets here. And I worked for various publicly traded companies around here doing various IT functions, a lot of mobile device management, end user computing. And I landed at this organization that was on Lotus Notes. And they said, we are planning to migrate to this thing called Office 365. It's kind of new. It's all cloud-based. And we're going to go for it. We're going to be one of the first organizations in Iowa to migrate to Office 365. Would you like to be a part of that? And I said, sure. I had already been what I jokingly refer to myself as an accidental Lotus Domino administrator, because my first job out of school was with IBM, and I learned how to use Notes because there really wasn't good help desk support or anything else. And as I landed at other organizations that also use Lotus Notes, I remember the HR people would fall out of their chairs shocked that I actually knew how to use Lotus Notes, because nobody knew how to use it anymore by that point. And I then learned the administrative side of it and came to this organization that was going to do this migration. And I said, yeah, I'll learn Exchange Online. I'll learn Azure Active Directory. I'll learn those things. And so that's how I went from being an accidental Domino administrator to an accidental Office 365 and Exchange Online administrator, was just raising my hand and saying, yeah, I'll do it. Now, there were bumps along the way. I remember the weekend we tried to cut over, nothing worked right. And it was our fault, by the way. And I spent the entire weekend on the phone with a PFE, a Premier Field Engineer, as they were known at the time. And again, kind of got a crash course in how to manage Exchange. But I am learning these valuable skills in cloud services and in Exchange and in these future-looking technologies. And from there, I eventually said, hey, let's learn Intune. Let's migrate to that for mobile device management. There's a big interplay between what do people want to do on their mobile phones? They want email. They want context. They want calendars. Mm-hmm. So that was a natural progression. And if you're going to learn that, then you need to learn things like conditional access and Azure Active Directory, as Enter ID was previously known. And just kept learning, just kept raising my hand, just kept saying yes. And then we had the opportunity in my organization to advocate for greater usage of these technologies. And so we started a lunch and learn. And I raised my hand and said, I'll present. I'll share my passion, my experience, the cool things you can do with this technology platform, advocate for more cloud usage. And it became an educational opportunity. You are teaching people, how do you use all these components of what is so new and different at the time in Office 365? And the Microsoft account team gained awareness of that. They knew we were doing these lunch and learns. We shared some of the YouTube videos with them, showed them what we did. And at a certain point, they came to me and said, hey, do you want to come to Microsoft? And I was stunned by that. I've been in IT this whole time. And I'm like, I don't know about going into sales. And they're like, don't worry about that. If you're a technologist and you're going to go into technical sales, your job is just to educate, teach people about what we do and how we do it. The sale, that's other people's job, number one. Number two, sales will come organically when you teach people what we can do and how we do it. So just come educate, just come be a teacher. Don't worry about that. You have all the skills you need to be successful. We really want you to come here. And so I had to go on my Twitter account, delete a whole bunch of mean tweets I had said about Microsoft, and then put my application in and went through not a formal interview process, a very informal process. I had coffee with this gentleman and met this gentleman for lunch and talked to this gal on the phone. And then ultimately a job offer was extended like 6 months later because our hiring process is very slow, but came on board as a technical specialist covering, at the time, our enterprise mobility and security suite. And so I'll pause there, but that's kind of how I went from getting out of school, various roles in IT, and coming to Microsoft and making that transition from IT to kind of my first quote unquote sales job in technical sales.
That is a very, very good rollout and dissertation of that. It made me think about where the time gaps are, because you're seeing Office 365, you're seeing Domino, which leads me to believe that entity that you did it for was a very late adopter, because my mind keeps saying, I'm about to age myself here. I thought that Domino was the greatest threat to the thing I was good at the time, which was GroupWise. Mm-hmm. I was a GroupWise administrator. Wow. But I knew Domino and do that. So my mind is going, oh my God. I used to be a collaboration. I moved, no exaggeration, I have had to have moved 500,000 mailboxes across all the companies I were at. The folks at Quest knew me by name. Right. And then I clean all the people. So I would call over, hey man, this is what we're doing. But you went to 365. You didn't do BPOS, which is the first rendition of it. Okay.
Right after the BPOS rebrand is about when we went. So this was like late 2012, early 2013 is when we made this migration. And to your point, it was an organization that had been a laggard, had stayed on notes too long, saw this as an opportunity to make that quantum leap forward. We're going to go all the way from being a laggard to we're going to be at the forefront. We're going to be the first enterprise, publicly traded enterprise in the state of Iowa to go all the way in on cloud And we're going to do it early. We're going to do it first. We're going to build the muscle and the experience and the skills before anyone else gets there. And we did that. And that was really exciting to be part of. But the whole reason the opportunity opened for me is because the gal who previously held my role said she didn't want to learn all that new stuff. And I said, I'll learn it. Heck yeah, let's go. And again, there were sleepless nights. There were long weekends. But they were such valuable skills, and it was so, I could see the writing on the wall. I could see that cloud was coming, and I wanted to be on that train early, not the last one to get on board.
Yeah. You probably called me as a PFP, and I'm like, yeah, I'm on lunch. I'll get back with you. Just stay put. I'll come back. Nobody's going to send you an email because your mail doesn't work. So you're good.
Exactly right.
I would say,
yeah, go ahead, Rick. I'm sorry.
Adam, I was going to say what you said, the premise of that statement of, volunteering when you don't know, the unknown, the uncomfortableness of saying, hey, I'll try to figure it out has been like the cornerstone of my entire, I would say almost my entire career, like getting thrown into the deep end. There's not a large level of expectation by the people you're working for, because one, you don't know it. And then you're cutting your teeth on it and you're getting all this knowledge. And then all of a sudden you're like, everybody's looking at you as the individual that went above and beyond, when even if you were doing it for the company, you're also doing it for yourself. You're learning these incredible skills, growing your resume. It's a great thing that a lot of people, they don't do that. They don't volunteer for stuff. They sit quiet and hope somebody else does the work. And I'm like you, Adam. I'm like, yeah, I don't know how to do it, but I'll figure it out.
Yeah, and that's been my claim. I'll raise my hand. I could tell stories like in the United States Navy, captain, like they want me to pull a network on my blah 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 submarine. Anybody ever done it?
One last thing I just wanted to double click on, Adam, was that you were talking about, hey, you were approached by Microsoft about a technical sales role. Something's very similar to happened to me with like Azure. And, for folks out there, right, sales, you may get approached sometimes when Microsoft's recruiting. And your initial reaction is like, I know nothing about this, or I look at that list of items that's on that career webpage that you've just referred me to. And like 8 out of 10, I don't have, right? So what are some of the things, Adam, that as you're kind of thinking about that, beyond just kind of jumping in and saying, yes, I love that ethos. What are some of the other things that kind of helped get you through that process, I think, and that mindset of like, you know what, I think I can do that?
I think a big part of it is being able to reduce concepts down to their simplest element and being able to share that with a broad audience. It's one thing to be able to come in and speak jargon to someone else who understands the same jargon as you. That's easy. Complexity is actually simpler than simplicity is, which sounds like a weird statement, but simplicity is actually difficult. It's difficult to distill things to their elements. And that's a skill you develop with practice and with time. And it's by getting in front of people who may not be technical, who may come from a different part of the organization, who may come from the business, and being able to make your point to them, what they need to understand about it, and only what they need to understand about it and nothing more. And that was a huge leg up in coming in. Was I had done these lunch and learns, and our audience for these lunch and learns were people across the business. We're not all IT people. And so when you're teaching them, here's how you do this, or here's how this works, you gain that experience in reducing it to its simplest element. And that's a lot of what was pitched to me is when you come in, we need you to come in and educate. And sometimes, yes, you are going to be talking shop with someone else who is familiar with this technology or with this language. But a lot of the times, if you're selling something to someone, they don't have it today. They've never used it that way. They've never approached the problem in this way. You're trying to get them to look at the problem differently. And so if you can't distill what you're trying to land concisely, simply, and in a timely fashion, you're going to have a really hard time with that. So that was definitely a skill I had developed and being comfortable with public speaking. Now, not everyone is going to want to get up in front of an audience of tens or hundreds of people and talk. But if you can build that skill, and it's something that gets easier with practice, like almost everything in life does, it will help you in so many ways in the long run. Doing things like Toastmasters or taking a public speaking course can be really career driving, can help drive your career forward. And I'm very appreciative of that and some of the education I had in that space.
Yeah. If you go ahead, I'm sorry, Ray.
No, I'm hooked now. So in terms of building that muscle, do you feel, because I know that you share that one of your hobbies is running, yes, educating folks and kind of facilitating that learning process, but you also have your own podcast, right, with a colleague, dear friend. And do you feel like that kind of dovetails nicely with the aspect of educating the community, driving these insights, and also further strengthening that muscle for public speaking and engagement?
Not everyone needs to start a podcast, right? And when Andy and I did that, so Ray has been on our show, Brody has been on our show, and then Andy, my co-host, has been on this show a couple months ago. So we've had good cross-pollination here. But one of the things we committed when we started it was we're going to be consistent with it. And I recognize that's not achievable for everyone because life is hard and life gets in the way. And Andy and I were recording a show yesterday and we had to sit down and look at the calendar, and he's on vacation this week. I'm on vacation that week. Okay, we're going to have to record 2. We're going to have to double up. It's a lot of work. So I recognize that's not for everyone, but almost everyone does have a story to tell, does have a talent they can share. It's one way to do it. But one thing I always do is I listen back to our own show. And Edward, you do that too on this show. It's very helpful to hear yourself talk, and as grating as your own voice can be, you will learn your vocal tics, the words you maybe repeat, if you're dropping too many ums or ahs, and nothing will knock you out of that faster than listening to yourself and being self-critical of yourself. So you don't have to host a podcast to do that. You could record meetings you have in your organization. You could go listen back to meetings and listen to when you spoke or when you presented and understand, okay, here's some opportunities to improve too. There's other ways to get that same experience, to get those reps without necessarily hosting your own podcast. But certainly that's a great option, and it's never been more accessible than it is today.
Yeah, I will admit I did not know you were one of the founders of that podcast. I listened to it, but I did not know it was you. So I did a search for a top security podcast. I'm looking for the competition here. I did not know it was you. I'm like, so because I went back and said, wait a minute, that's the dude that's on the podcast I listened to, because you sound different now than you sound. Because my first thing was, he must be really excited to come on the show. He got a real high performing microphone. It's all professional. He's sitting up straight with a clean shirt. Now it makes sense.
You could tell when the podcaster shows up on your show.
Yeah,
they're ready to go. They're not like messing around with the settings or anything else, right?
Except for this show, this last minute panic. You know, we're running everything. Kids are running around, dogs barking, everything, right? But I thought, not that I didn't believe you, I said, let me go back and see. That is him. Mm-hmm. I look back, I said, well, that's very cool. So I'm glad I was a fan of the show without even knowing who other people were, right? That's cool.
Well, we've been doing it for 5 years now, 5 years this fall. So about the same number of episodes as this show. I see we're on 264 here. I think we're just coming up on episode 250 ourselves. So it's a commitment, as you all know. But you don't have to commit to doing it weekly and bi-weekly. That is, I heard when I was in the green room, that is very aggressive. But certainly you could do a monthly show. Podcasting's never been easier.
Yeah, when we started off, we were once a month, I believe, with me and Frank. And so we're about 5 years also. And then within the last 3 years, we went to a weekly show, or in the last 4 years. But we're coming up on 5 years. So we started almost at the same time. And we're still plugging along. So now I get to cross-pollinate to make sure, right? So I can tag you in watching your show, you're watching mine, watching that. We need to do a podcast symposium. Like we just get all the podcasts in the big room, right? And podcast death match or something. I don't know.
Podcast death match. I'll sign up for that.
Jeopardy Masters, right? And,
there you go.
Things, right? So let's get to the thing. We talked about career a little bit. We're talking about the technology part. We talked about the sales piece, but where do you sit now in relation to your role, what you do at Microsoft, and how's that working out for you?
Yeah. So let's finish my story. I kind of paused. I got to Microsoft. I said, okay, let's pause. Let's talk about it. So I came to Microsoft, I mentioned, as a technical specialist, or at the time, a technology solutions professional. For those of you who don't speak Microsoft, that is called an SE at every other sales organization in the world. It's a sales engineer, a solutions engineer. It's the technical part of sales. So you're talking to other technical decision makers at customers. And as I mentioned repeatedly, you're educating on what your product does, but you're also solving for features, needs, requirements, integrations, and making sure it meets all of those. And so I covered, I mentioned Azure Active Directory. I covered Defender for Cloud Apps, was Microsoft Cloud App Security at the time. I covered Azure Information Protection, which became Microsoft Information Protection, which is now Purview Information Protection. And then also Azure ATP, which became known as Defender for Identity. So that was kind of my initial product set, and that evolved over time as Microsoft loves to do reorganizations and add more security-focused tools and threat protection tools to my plate as well. But what was so interesting about that is I came in the door, obviously very familiar. I forgot the most important one. I covered Microsoft Intune as well. And so I came in the door really strong in identity and endpoint management. And that was my background and experience. And I had to expand over time, because if you think about it, a lot of folks don't always lump in identity, endpoint management as security functions, but they're absolutely security adjacent, and they're critically important to an overall security posture. And so I kind of got my start there and then expanded into other threat protection workloads over time. But the thing about technical sales, and I loved it, is it can be repetitive at times, because you are delivering a lot of the same storytelling, delivering some of the same demos repeatedly. And then this is different for every organization and every sales organization. But one thing I noticed about the way Microsoft likes to sell its security platform is Microsoft looks at that more of a top down than a bottom up. And so what I mean by that is there's a lot of organizations that do a really great job of selling to technical decision makers and winning their hearts as well as their minds. And I'll give big shout out to some of the competition here. The folks like SentinelOne, CrowdStrike, Proofpoint, Wiz, Palo Alto. People love those solutions with their hearts as well as their minds, which makes them very difficult to compete against, because it's not always a rational conversation, it's an emotional one as well.
Yeah.
But that was a big part of what I did over time, was try to do exactly that. And I certainly recognized the challenge with it, and there was a repetitiousness to it. And I felt like I had reached cruising altitude. Like I was very comfortable with what I did. And whenever I reach that point of feeling too comfortable, that is when I get that signal of I need to get uncomfortable again. I need a new challenge. So I'll pause there. That's my first 4 years of Microsoft in technical sales.
And if you're at Microsoft, you're 90% a salesperson. You know, there used to be an old saying back in the day when security at Microsoft was a joke. And shout out to some of my mentors who really did a little bit of self-deprecation to sit here and say why we're so important, is that they used to say Microsoft is a marketing company that sells software, right? And all the things, but now it's a powerhouse. I think that you are absolutely 100% correct that it was a top-down approach. It's worked for many years, very resistant to change because of leadership success. Some person's success is different from somebody else's success, right? You know, I was a C+ student in school at best. That's good. Okay. But now you have to go back and sort of give Microsoft their kudos, because there are spot products and spot competitors who are definitely pound for pound in there. But you're seeing everybody move to a platform discussion. All doing it. Google is about to become very formidable, right? We talked about it 2 shows back, maybe 3. Once they solve the EDR problem, you're going to have a problem, right? You got now, because people saying, yeah, you're always going to have the CrowdStrikes who are going to be so prolific in that arena that they play in. But you're starting to see everybody saying, we need to sell a comprehensive solution. Unfortunately, the build up process of that is probably no longer achievable. acquisition seems to be the way now. It takes too long for startups to become to maturity, show value, all these things. But when you see Wiz and you see whatever Google's going to do with their endpoint solution, who knows? Don't know. Don't speculate. Everybody's going to that. Palo Alto is serious about how they go about it, right? I think the thing that has helped Microsoft stay at the top of the game or one of the top is that we're one of the big three.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the people that missed. VMware missed. They had an opportunity to build a cloud. They absolutely did, and they missed it. Oracle should have been in it. They have it. OCI is like, I have to do it because someone told me to do it. And that, now you're, but they are, right? And so now you're starting to see people saying we need to have a platform discussion rather than best in breed and one little thing. Because in my opinion, I don't know, you're going to start seeing Forrester, LTI, Gartner go, if you're not on a platform ecosystem, then you're just a fringe player. So shout out to the thought leaders that sit here and say, yeah, we keep hearing that top down. And I was a big person that says, you got to sell to the worker bees. These are the ones who are down here that turn the widgets. You're seeing it. It took a minute, didn't believe, but it's the thing. I'm just waiting for E7 to come out. I'm making up something. My opinions and my speculations do not represent the opinions and future product of my company employer, Microsoft, whom I love. There you go. That's it. You get out of there. Ray, you are. I think I saw somebody's hand come up. I can't see without these things on anymore. So you were a TS, or if you're old school enough, you were a TSP, which I had a blue badge for a purple badge for a number of years. I'm a virtual guy. So now, what are you?
Yeah. So now, about 3 or 4 years ago, I mentioned kind of reached cruising altitude, was ready for that new challenge, really wanted to talk platform as opposed to individual technologies, because to me, I saw that as the end game. And again, trying to kind of see that overused Wayne Gretzky quote of skating to where the puck is going to be, not where it has been. I see that as the next step here, going all the way back in my career too. And I'm not patting myself on the back. Believe me, I'm not that smart, but I could see that platform was the next approach because it just makes sense in terms of the gaps in visibility, the level and effort of integration it takes. The fact is, we have empirical evidence to prove this. If you could go out and buy the individual upper right solution in every category, and you hire a bunch of smart people and they stitch it together and you've solved cybersecurity, we wouldn't see the number of security incidents we do. We have enough real world evidence to prove that that doesn't work. And so I saw that we really need to pivot to a platform play. And you're absolutely right. Having been doing this long enough, we took our fair share of slings and arrows, right? I mean, I used to walk in the door and say, I'm here from Microsoft Security, and I get laughed out of the room. And that has shifted over time as the platform's gotten better. So I took a role as what Microsoft calls, it's a really boring title, I'm a specialist in the security solution area. So it used to be a role called an SSP. People still use that acronym because it's clearer than what's your role? Well, I'm a senior specialist. But that is technically my title, like in the official address book. But I refer to myself using an old title I used to have as enterprise security executive. And not because it sounds cool, although it does, but because my point is I'm the peer of the account executive owning the security relationship. So owning the relationship between Microsoft and whoever the top level security decision maker is at that organization, usually a chief information security officer, chief security officer, VP of cybersecurity, whatever their title is, cultivate that relationship, but then also, of course, try to drive Microsoft security sales, new business in that organization. And that is kind of not seen as a technical role. It's a pure sales role. And so for me coming into that, this was like a whole new world. And of course, as a technical specialist, I thought that looked like the easiest thing in the world. What do? You send emails and set up meetings and then tell your TS to go give their demo. That's all you do. Oh, and then you need to go update like a CRM solution and call it a day. And that is grossly oversimplifying what it was. It was one of the biggest challenges I ever took on in my career. So number one, I will say to a lot of technical people who sit in IT organizations, and yes, you do have annoying salespeople abuse LinkedIn, Sales Navigator, InMail, call you, email you. I get it. There are bad eggs in every bunch. And there are going to be people who sell very aggressively. I made kind of a promise to myself whenever I came to Microsoft that I would be true to my principles, I'd be true to the technology, and I'd let the technology speak for itself. If it's a good fit, we're going to make a deal. If it's not a good fit, we aren't. And no amount of like salesperson magic or acting like a used car salesman is really going to change that at an enterprise sales level. If you just be true to yourself and what you're doing, I have never been asked to do anything unethical or uncomfortable. And I'm so appreciative of that. And I don't think I ever will, because that's not the kind of organization we are. There's really this misconception in a lot of ways of what sales is, because I still see it as it's my job to educate. It's my job to facilitate. Microsoft's a big company. It has a lot of resources. There's a lot of really smart people here. And if I can help match what a customer is trying to do to the person at Microsoft who's best suited to help with that, we will win and the customer will win too. It's one of those true win-win things. And so a lot of what I do, it is facilitating, it is communicating, it is sending emails, it is setting up meetings, but it's so much more than that. It's knowing how to play the orchestra, how to orchestrate resources. And that is the part that surprised me so much, is coming from someone who did some really complex and hairy IT projects and then did technical sales and then moved into solution sales. This is easily the hardest job I've had. And I did not expect that going in. And so that has been so awesome to be challenged and to have that opportunity to learn and grow. Because if there's one thing that's so true about cybersecurity, and I know people may roll their eyes at this because Microsoft people love talking about growth mindset, but my goodness, you will not be successful in cybersecurity in whatever role you do adjacent to it if you do not come at it with a humble attitude and a growth mindset. Because at the moment you think you've figured it all out, you're a know-it-all, you are going to be humbled. And so it's a lot easier to be humble up front and already say, I don't know it all. I'm trying to learn as much as I can. It's a big, hairy, audacious, challenging problem to solve. And we're all doing the best we can. And we're all trying to learn from each other. And if we have that mindset, we're a lot more successful.
Yeah, I had a good mentor. And shout out to Ann. I actually can't say her last name. He gave me permission. She said something very similar. She said, Ed, you want to succeed? She said, it's better to be a sponge than a brick. And I kept that. I got on the little placard over there. She said, it's better to be a sponge than a brick, right? Because, she says the sponge, you're able to adapt. You can wring yourself out, get rid of the stuff that's no longer relevant, and start bringing other stuff on. And she's always been a person that when I need to go over there, and she always had this thing, it's still discerning to this day. Whenever I met with her, we had to sit down in absolute silence for 5 minutes. It's numbing. Like, what are we doing here? Like, just sit down, and everything else. I felt like Neo in the Matrix when she came in and sort of looked at me.
Did you have a timer? Was it actually like structured?
I asked that question and she's like, I'm the timer.
Okay. Like, I love how we're simpatico. We're coming from the same perspective. Like, I need to know all the specifics. This is input, output. Like just going with the flow is anathema to me. I don't understand it. I'm still learning. And Adam, to your point, how does empathy tie into your approach? And I asked that question because you shared that you're the security specialist role is one of the most challenging. And I have found, and I've been on the other side of the dynamic. I was a customer of Microsoft, and then I was very privileged to join the mothership. And I remember, on the front lines there, it's like, the security sellers are coming around. But now, when I see what happens behind the scenes, I have found the most successful folks are those that lead with empathy, have been on that side of that dynamic, are quite technical, and have been in those roles with the folks that they are connecting with, and then building those relationships throughout their security journey. So I'm just curious how that plays into your experience.
one of the best experiences I ever had at Microsoft was the opportunity to see Brian Stevenson, the author of Just Mercy, speak with, at the time, Microsoft US President Kate Johnson. And one of the things he said is proximity builds empathy. And that was so resonant with me. And I've had the privilege in my career of having proximity to a lot of different roles and being able to build that empathy by working with them through proximity. But I was at a career day at my children's school a couple weeks ago, and the kids asked me, "What's the hardest part of your job?" And that was an easy answer. I said, "It's whenever a customer is experiencing a security incident." I said, because I empathize so deeply with what they're going through. You know, there's a time to kind of chuckle and be like, if you used Microsoft, maybe that would have happened. But again, that's a bad mindset to have, one. But two, I have been there. I mentioned in my IT career, I had some long weekends and long nights. During our Lotus Notes to Exchange migration, something blew up. And I don't know if we ever figured out what the root cause was, but the end result was email was not getting delivered to a publicly traded financial services organization. And the organization was this close to rolling back all the changes, saying, "Forget you, Microsoft, we're sticking with Lotus Notes." And I pulled an all-nighter, followed the sun with Microsoft support, trying to fix it. And it was one of the most humbling and largest learning opportunities of my life. And I imagine that times a billion when an organization's having a security incident. So I think this is a business that should be the easiest in the world to have deep empathy for our customers, because when they're having a bad day, they're having a really, really bad day. And if we keep that in mind and we're trying to help protect them against that, that's a reason to get you out of bed in the morning. That's one of the things I love about cybersecurity is we're stopping the bad people. And it is more of a mission-driven work, mission-driven job than a lot of things you can do, because you have such a clear set of goals and a clear set of challenges. And it's one of the things I love about it as well, is that clear dichotomy of like good versus evil in that sense.
Yeah, you and I come from similar backgrounds. I think that also Rick has too. I'm not really sure if Nathan was in a collaboration space, but it's humbling because you're messing with a technology that is absolutely evident to everybody that it's not working. And when someone says the EBD database is unrecoverable, that's unacceptable. Then you figure out that the backups are not working, right? Because typically didn't back it up. They must have, right? Now you got to go back and collaborate with everybody because the DNS records are not as easily, it's changeable. Like you said, they're talking about propagation. Now you can change DNS, MS records, SPF, like that. But back then you had to put a call in, change request for you, mails down. So you had to coordinate all this stuff up front, right? And then you become an expert in PST file exports and imports. I've been there, and it's crazy knowing that Monday morning at whatever time zone business starts, it's better be up, right? And that's not even the stressful part. The stressful part when the people say, "Will all the email be there?" Well, no, I do not know. And you're using, Microsoft Outlook 2007. And you're trying to get it in. I get it. And yeah, I've been there. That's still to me of just a lot of projects. So big shout out to moving email and OCS and links and TMG and ISO server. Been there. All the time. So any regrets? Because technical people tend to be very hands-on, controlling. I control my fate because I'm really good and I can write a script and I'm a PowerShell master to, hey man, I'm dealing with personality. This person had a bad day. Ed's friendly on the show. Next time you see me, I'm the CISO somewhere and I'm like, hey Ed, what's up, Adam? What do you want to sell me? So give me a challenge. I know that you were talking about it, but I've heard it overcome, but give me a very distinct challenge you had when you can get in. I can solve the problem because I know how to do ones and zeros, do this, making a configuration change. Whereas a lot, like you said, it was emotional relationships. And I give another thing right after that. I want to hit on. Give me a good challenge.
Do I miss being more technically involved? Sometimes, yes. Like I do miss having a demo environment and being able to go tinker with stuff and see what's new and get to be on the bleeding edge of things. I feel lost sometimes when somebody's telling me, oh, this new conditional access thing came out and Enter ID. And it's like, oh, I wish I could get in my demo environment and go poke at this, but I don't have time to manage that anymore. And it's not directly part of my role. So that has been somewhat challenging, is kind of letting go and letting the technical skills atrophy a little bit has been humbling in some ways. But on the other hand, I've built new skills and they are fun and challenging and different. And to me, I'm less focused on the what than the how, like how it feels to be challenged.
Yeah.
And to me, if I keep getting that feeling, I'm not completely tied to it. And the thing I keep in mind too is there is still value in having technical skilling in my role, because one of the things that differentiates me from some of my peers is because I come from that technical background, a lot of times I can move a little faster because I can talk to a customer at level 100, 200, 250, 300 even, maybe sometimes, on what challenges they're facing. And I don't have to immediately run and bring my technical counterpart in to help me with that. And so I still have incented to maintain that. In fact, I still hold all of the Microsoft security certifications, the SC 200, 300, 400, 900, all of those. I maintain those and keep taking the renewal exercises every year. They keep getting harder because I'm getting further away from it, but it's important to me to maintain that. So that's been kind of a challenge. And then as far as just more of a overall, this is a challenging role. I mentioned that. And it's, people can be difficult to work with sometimes. And sometimes it's by design. And sometimes, like you mentioned, it could be a bad day or they're having another challenge that I know nothing about. And you get really good at building up that armor and not taking it personally. And especially if you're going to be part of the evil empire, which we really aren't today, but people have this long memories, as I said, it comes with the territory. I learned that early on, that some people have very strong feelings or had very negative experiences, sometimes with previous leadership at the organization and previous ways of doing business, auditing companies as an example, that we don't really do today, but people carry that with them. And I have to keep in mind, like, it's more about the name that's on my business card than it is about my name. And as long as I maintain that, it all works out in the end. But that can be, coming from IT, that was the hardest part, especially in the Midwest, like in Midwest where people are passive aggressive and won't say anything mean to your face and will say it behind your back instead. That's so Midwest. Having people be very blunt and direct and say negative things to your face was a new experience for me. Now, I've gotten used to it after 8 years, but you do encounter it. It will happen. People do have strong opinions, especially in cybersecurity where there's no lack of strong opinions, and it comes with the territory. And if that's hard for you, there is a learning curve with that, and it's not for everyone. There is that challenge of, I would not say, oh, anyone can do what I do. No, you do have to be built a certain way and be able to sometimes disassociate to be successful at it. And I've had management tell me, like, you do not need to put up with customers being like hurtful to you. And if that's happening, I don't want you engaging with them, and we will refuse to engage. But there's a difference between like being outright, like really hurtful, but just expressing frustration. Those are two different things, and you have to be able to separate them out. So I would say, those would be kind of the day-to-day challenges as well as the long-term kind of career challenges with it.
Yeah, I agree. You're probably familiar with the global black belt role at Microsoft. There's a lot of blame. There's a lot of being dropped in, and the person is looking for another punching bag because the other ones have gotten numb. But you get it. And you're right. People have bad days. I wasn't used to people being mean to me and saying it right up to my face and everything. But then I've been working with Ray for about a year. you get used to it. You're right. I get it. So. you exhibit a personality that will probably make you successful everywhere you go. It's because you're starting to see these companies, as much as their brand might or brand recognition or brand whatever, you have a personality and you have a skill that when you leave, that relationship persists. And so if you go to another person, they're going to remember you. It may not be an opportunity to flip loyalties to do this, because moving 10,000 seats of EDR to something else based on a personal relationship, that could be career limiting. But you get the first right of refusal when or they go somewhere and say, hey, I'm here. I'm not married to this. The renewal's up. I remember you over here now. That's the thing now. And so while you are a full-time employee, Microsoft is a great company to work for and everything else, you're finding that trust is the currency that you are purveying. That I trust Apple. If he's over here, he's done me right by that, and we trust him here, right? And that's the thing that we're starting to see, because there is all the platforms are good. They just are. Everybody's stuff is good. So now you have to come to something. What's the differentiator? I know him. That's good enough, right? CrowdStrike is a good product. MDE is a great product. Wiz is a great product. Our CNAP stuff is second to none. We do it. So what do I need to differentiate? I had that dude, or he came over here, or he worked over here with me. I know how to do this. I know he has a little bit of my self-interest to get this done, right? That's going to be the differentiator, because now you have an entity that nobody can trust at the moment. AI. It only serves itself, and it only chooses to please whomever wrote it or trained the models. So now you have to sit here and, do you want a three-way? I got to contend with the vendor who's trying to get me to spend millions, and his AI that doesn't care. It just wants to give me whatever answer. And that's what we're seeing. Man, this has been really good. I do have some follow-up stuff that, probably off the thing we probably can't talk on, but I love hearing the story. Sound very, very similar in our the way we transition, the way we progress in our career, except I have not done the sales stuff. Everybody at Microsoft is a seller. You just are. You just are, right? You sell it.
Yeah. It's an old that if you're not writing the code, you're selling it.
If you're not writing the code, you're selling it. I think part of the new thing when you join here, you're going to get a tattoo of loyalty. That's going to be the next thing that's coming on, right? They're going to burn it into your irises or something.
Well, as I jokingly tell my customers, if you cut me open, I don't bleed the 4 colors. And to your point, if you play the long game in terms of being true to yourself, being true to the technology, calling a spade, that will do more for you in the long term than any short-term wins you may get, not sticking to those things. And that's exactly my approach, is play the long game, do the right thing. And if you do that long enough, it will pay dividends in exponential ways.
And you're starting to see these companies recognize that the companies you're selling to are as large as you. Capitalization, Microsoft, the most valuable company in the world, number 2, maybe, whatever.
Number 1 today.
Yeah, but look at who you're selling to. They're number 10. That's like, you're worth 10 billion, I'm worth 8. Okay, what are you going to buy between $2 billion? I'm sure that's not demonstrably true, but you get what I'm saying, right? You have to consider these things, and consider the clients that I cover, and Rick covers, and Nathan covers, right? They're like, yeah, you're Microsoft, so what? What? You call me. And so,
to Adam's point, I mean, I cover Security Copilot, and it's not a good fit for everybody. I've had customers when we launched the product, they demoed it, they tried it out for a couple months, and they said, yeah, it's not what we are looking for right now. We're looking for, and they gave us a list. And then I said, okay, those things are in the backlog. They're coming. Would you be open to having a talk, say in a year from now? And they said, yeah. And almost every single one of those customers have came back to me and said, hey, I want to know what the latest and greatest is. Let's talk. So you're accurate. Yeah.
You don't cut them off. You go, oh, you didn't buy one, talk to you. We'll figure it out. They'll come back. I had a real discussion similar to what you're talking about right today, and do these things, right? It's relationships that you build in trust, right? That doesn't mean trust mean they got what they want. You gave them the best answer that you could with the knowledge that you had. So
yeah,
man, this is really good to talk about this. I think this is probably going to be like one of those pivots when we start talking about certification paths. I think Ray and I are also supposed to talk about careers coming up, because we're always talking about cybersecurity show. Only in the recent being 10 years, that cybersecurity was a definitive career path. It was something that you dovetailed into, right? Who's the closest guy to the firewall? Then you're the security guy. And now you can go to school to be this thing. Right? I don't know what this thing is, but you could be this thing. Adam, I want to say thank you for coming on to the show. You always have the last word here. Now that I know who's in charge of this Blue Security podcast, right? I'm looking at your ratings.
It's a joint effort. Who's in charge?
There is no friendly competition, right? That's called cooperation. Now
that's right.
Yeah, we good. Hey, we do need to maybe brainstorm that to get, some of our guests have their own things, their own outlets. We need to have a big old consortium and just have a good old podcast Jeopardy, right? And do some of those things. Well, everyone, any closing things, Adam?
Yeah. Hey, first, Brody, feel better soon. I miss you, bud. Hope you feel better. And thanks for the time. I'm so appreciative of the opportunity to come on. It's been my pleasure to be part of it. Please do check out the Blue Security podcast wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube. And thanks again for the time.
And Andy, we're going to get you on without him and see if the stories line up.
Andy's already been on.
Yeah, you mean the second time? Edward constantly does. It's a ruse to get people to return because he's too proud to say.
I'm getting older. I'm having these gaps. No. Right? I know Andy's been on, but I was never Andy came on. I was doing something. Right?
Yeah, that's he's good. You're so sharp, Edward.
Sharp as a bag of wet mice. There you go.
It's visual. Okay. I don't
That's the old Looney Tunes saying. Foghorn Leghorn said that. Boy, you about as sharp as a bag of wet mice. Do that. So, everyone, thanks for listening to the show. Once again, you see how Ray treats me. I'm under siege over here because I'm getting older. My mind ain't right. That's okay though. I can still write a query with the best of them. Grok, KQL, Copilot. We'll do it. Everyone, next show, what is it? Monday the 16th. I don't think I'll be here. I think that the show will probably be. I'm traveling for work, so Ray's probably going to run the show. Hopefully Nathan and Rick can come on, but Ray can run it by herself. I think. Have you done a show by yourself?
I've never done it. So no, we have to show me.
It's just been me and you. Everybody, we've at least had two, but it's easy, right? So same time next week, people. Thank you so much. And let me find the right buttons here. Let me see.
Thank you, Adam. You're amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, you're good, dude. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
Thanks. Take care, everybody.
All right, outro. Do it. I don't know. What's going on? There you go. All right. Well, Adam, thank you so much. I'm getting ready to end the stream, and we'll be in touch. Have a good one.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.